Welcome back to the channel where we spotlight Black excellence in film and TV so you don't have to miss some great Black-led roles. Let's get into it. Today's list is all about Black-led westerns. I'm a huge fan of the western genre, spaghetti westerns, and despite what popular films may suggest, there were a lot of black cowboys back in the day, and the famous ones too. Starting off with Posse, loosely based on the co-writer's grandfather, this 1993 film starts off in Cuba. A band of buffalo soldiers, and quick note, if you don't know what that is, a buffalo soldier is the name given to black cavalier troops by native Indians for their curly black hair, which was apparently like a buffalo's coat, and because of their fierce nature of fighting. Back to the movie. This troop is led by Jesse Lee, played by Mario Van Peebles, and joined by gambling white soldier Stephen Baldwin. They are sent on a suicide mission to intercept a shipment of gold from enemy troops during the Spanish-American War. When they discover the officer who sent them meant to actually betray them, they are forced to shoot their way to freedom. Upon escaping, they embark on a dangerous quest across the American frontier. Now, my number one choice is going to be later in this video, but I definitely enjoyed Posse. The characters seem to be having fun. They really do seem like a good old bunch of friends, making jokes, chilling, and then shooting their way out of bad situations. That's a comment you won't hear me make about Red Tail, as I really don't like the dialogue in Red Tail. If I could say, this seems like the complete opposite of that dialogue if you've seen Red Tail, as in these people actually feel like friends when they're together. They actually feel like they know each other. That, really pays off big, I found, in this movie. It's got some mixed reviews, definitely not enjoyed by all, but if this one isn't sounding like your cup of tea or the trailer's just not doing it for you, don't worry, stick around, we got plenty more where this came from. Posse is currently available on Prime Video, I believe, if you want to give it a watch. The Harder They Fall, apparently one of Netflix's most successful original movies. Bold and very colorful. The Harder They Fall, definitely a movie you should check out if you're interested in this genre and if you want to see Idris Elba play a cowboy. The more I find out about Idris Elba's movie roles, the more interesting they get, whether it's Beast of No Nation, which is crazy, Concrete Cowboy, which is just kind of unexpected, and now in The Harder They Fall, no one can say he doesn't have variety in his roles. And I'm not even a huge Idris Elba fan. But regardless, the story is about an outlaw who discovers his enemy is being released from prison and he must reunite with his former gang members to seek revenge. As I said before, you got Idris Elba, and then you got Jonathan Major, pre-white woman PTSD. There are obviously a bunch of other actors, and I think probably the most stacked black cast for a Western I have ever seen. If you see my previous list where I talked about the movie Sorry to Bother You with Keith Stanfield, he's also in this movie as well. So The Harder They Fall is extremely colorful. I mentioned that earlier. It's very bright. Like when I say colorful, I do mean it's colorful, especially given that it takes place in the Wild West, which is a lot of like in other movies. It's typically desaturated. It's got sandy tan color palette most of the time. The Harder They Fall, though, visually looks nice. It's very much a feast for the eyes for those of you that want to see a rich, colorful experience. Almost think of it like if you've ever done shrooms, you kind of you really know they're starting to take effect when all of a sudden all the colors in the room just seem to pop. It's kind of like that. But don't let that description deter you from the blood and action that does indeed take place. And you should be able to catch this one on Netflix, as it's one of theirs. Let's keep it going with Magnificent Seven. Next, the best way I can think of describing this is a gritty industrialist takes control of an old western town and threatens the lives of its inhabitants. A couple of the inhabitants go out of their way to find anyone that will help them get rid of these occupiers. That's where our Magnificent Seven come in, starting off with Denzel Washington, who takes the offer and starts to recruit man after man. We'll leave it at that to not give anything further away. I really enjoyed this film. It's very fun. I believe it's modeled after the Seven Samurai film from the 1960s. Now, I haven't seen the original Samurai movie, but in this one, it kind of goes how you might expect, which they gather a bunch of interesting characters. They kind of get along, kind of don't, bickering back and forth, and the means are kind of simple, to convince people to risk their lives for things that you only, how else can you do it? You only have so much time. to tell this freaking movie. So if you, the viewer, can ignore the easy recruitment that happens, and I think you should be able to. It's really just a means to an end. It's a great ride. Just enjoy the movie. I don't think you'll regret it. A YouTube commenter on the trailer actually probably put it the best. They said, "This was a fun movie. Don't extrapolate anything from it. They got together a pretty great cast, really, and just had fun. It's a comic book version of the West," end quote. I thoroughly agree with that quote. Just go in there, have some fun, sit back, relax, get some popcorn and enjoy it, because it's got really great moments, some great action scenes, and it's funny. So I don't know what else you really want from a movie. Check out this film. Highly recommend this one. Should be on Amazon Prime, I believe, at the time of releasing this video. Next up, The Hateful Eight. Oh boy, let's go. I'm not having these in any particular order, okay? Of like worst to best or anything like that. But for the final one, that is going to be my #1 recommended pick. Everything else is sort of just floating around in the ether. That being said, if it wasn't for the fact that I already have my first pick, this would probably be my first pick. So you can kind of think of it as a second pick. But it's not a second pick because it's the 4th movie of my 6 movie list, potentially 10 movie with the honorable mentions. Anyways, that all being said, 8 strangers get shacked up and locked in a cabin together due to a storm. The big issue being here that each one of them kinda has a connection or a reason to sort of betray the other. Tension boils over. It's sort of like stretching out a rubber band until it snaps. That's the dynamic of having all these people shoved in a room together for the duration of the storm. If I haven't said it before, I'll say it again. Quentin Tarantino is probably my favorite director. I just love the way he constructs his dialogue. He could probably make 2 chickens talking in a black room sound interesting. And I would say this film is almost kind of like an entire movie's worth of the opening scene from Inglourious Basterds. Needless to say, very suspenseful, creative, witty dialogue. This is a highly recommended film if I ever had one. If you have not seen this, go check it out. Starring Samuel L. Jackson, among others, who does a fantastic job throughout the entire film. It's a Quentin Tarantino movie. You can't really go wrong. Should be able to find it on Amazon, Netflix, and potentially Crave TV or Apple for about $5. Good luck. Buck and the Preacher is our next black-led western, another older movie. This one's from 1975. Buck and the Preacher star Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte. This film takes place after the end of the Civil War. A soldier turned a trail guide makes a living by helping former slaves find settlements in the West. Along the way, he runs into a con artist preacher who joins forces with them after a gang of bounty hunters start rounding up freed slaves to bring them back to Louisiana. The two decide to work together to fight against the hunters. This one came off a bit of a surprise. Wasn't sure what it was going to be like when I got into it, honestly. I did go into sort of expecting it to be dull, but happily proven wrong. This film has some great characters. The dynamic between the 2 main characters, their difference but yet the same, works really well together. Some people might not like the little over-the-top performance from the preacher, but I enjoyed the preacher's eccentric dialogue and characteristics. I thought it gave the character something that really set him apart from everyone else. And you know, even though he was trying to do a good thing at the ending, you can still see like the con artist liar, I don't know how to describe that kind of character personality trait in him, kind of peeking out every now and again, but it's really good. Currently available on Amazon Prime, but can be purchased on YouTube right here or Apple TV. And finally, that brings us to our #1 pick. Remember, the previous ones didn't go in any particular order except for this one that I left all the way back here. I mean, it really should go without saying that my #1 pick, my #1 Western, is Little House on the Prairie. I'm kidding, obviously it's Django Unchained. I don't even think there are any black people in Little House on the Prairie. I've never even seen Little House on the Prairie. I do remember that opening scene though. But yes, Django Unchained, another Quentin Tarantino masterpiece in my opinion. If you have not seen this movie, what are you waiting for? Go check it out right now. If you have seen this movie, what are you waiting for? Go check it out right now. Because I try to watch this movie at least once a year. A fun, funny thrill ride from beginning to end. Superb acting from the entire crew. Jamie Foxx does a fantastic job. Leonardo DiCaprio obviously should have won an Oscar for this or any of his other films that weren't Revenant. And Christoph Waltz, brilliant as always. In case you were unaware of this film, it takes place 2 years before the Civil War. Django, a slave, finds himself accompanying an unorthodox German bounty hunter named Dr. King Schultz on a mission to capture a bounty, and after hearing Django's story, agrees to help him out and give him a little bit of training to help him accomplish his own goals. It's got a great old western hero or hero archetype story, the knight going to save the princess stuck in the castle kind of idea, but with guns. And sometimes the good old-fashioned storytelling with a little bit of a twist here and there is all you really need to do. Quentin Tarantino knocks it out of the park again, and that's why this sits as my #1 favorite movie of all time and one that you definitely need to see. Right next to The Matrix, these are my 2 favorite movies, The Matrix and Django Unchained, which they also happen to be my 2 favorite genres, sci-fi and westerns. You can catch Django Unchained on Netflix or purchase it on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, YouTube, etc. Now, let's get into some honorable mentions. These are movies that don't quite fit into the main picks, but I feel they might be interesting to people to check out after one of the previous movies that I mentioned. So starting off with Unforgiven, this stars Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman, 2 great actors who do a fantastic job. This film is much darker take on the western genre, more of a psychological internal darkness, unlike I think it's a Bone Saw Tomahawk, which is way more like in-your-face gorish. This one's more internal. Maybe the best way to put it is showing the trauma, the effects of what the Wild West can do to a man, and how he sort of lives with that darkness inside. I know Morgan Freeman is in this and does play a pretty significant role, but it's really about Clint Eastwood's character more than anything else, which is why I felt it needed to be here. But be sure to put this on your list at some point to check out. It's a really great movie. So my next one is going to be Wild Wild West. That's right, I know not a lot of people like this movie. I understand that, but I enjoyed it, and I think it's not nearly as bad as everyone makes it out to be. But if you haven't seen it, you can give it a check out, but let me warn you, most people don't like it. It's goofy, it's silly, and it's not very serious at all. It does star Will Smith, but Will Smith has a plethora of movies, hits and misses, so take that from what you will. I enjoy it, and I don't take it seriously, and I don't think you should either. And lastly, Surrounded. Now this is black-led western. It does fit all the points of my previous movies. This one's starring Letitia White, who plays Black Panther in Wakanda Forever, T'Challa's sister. It's set 5 years after the Civil War. This film follows former Buffalo soldier Mo Washington as she travels west to lay claim on a gold mine left to her by her father, her late father. The reason this is in my honorable mentions is because I didn't really enjoy this particular film, but I don't have any female-led westerns on my list, so I decided to throw it in there, and it did do a pretty good job with the audience. Like other people, the reviews on it, people seem to like it. I just wasn't a fan myself. So if that is something you're interested in, check it out. You might enjoy it. It does have some good moments. It does indeed have some good moments, some suspenseful moments, some kind of funny moments too. So it's not bad in any way, shape, size, or form. Just didn't really do it for me. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that. If you're a big Western fan like I am, I'm sure you'll love a bunch of the movies on this list, if not all of them. Give them a watch. Let me know what you think down below. You're going to watch these, you're not, you already seen them. What do you think? Like, comment, subscribe, and come back for more.